north of the Trent. Let's look at 4 country houses here, what the newspapers call stately homes. I'll start with Adlington, because it's got a bit of everything. That's the main road from Manchester to London. And on the right, the Leigh Arms. And you wouldn't think this was only half a mile away. It's a complete contrast with the old Manor House, which you'll see through this arch. There it is, 500 years old. Here's the great hall. See that long post in the middle of the picture? That is the trunk of an oak tree, which has been here since 1315. It leans inwards from the prevailing northwest wind, for it's a real tree and its roots are still in the ground. When they built the hall around it in 1450, they carved it with an axe. Today, it leans towards the organ. Handel's organ, 1749. Handel is known to have played this organ, and he composed a hunting song for the Leighs of the time. They've lived here for more than 600 years and still do. Those are the arms of families who have married into them. The Leighs are Cheshire squires who have quietly served their county and country all these years, producing no famous names, but many good men. Here's the drawing room. Look at some of the things in it. That chandelier, 1751. And best of all, I think, the wood carving in pear wood. It probably really is by Grindling Gibbons. Look at this bird on its nest. There's Cherubs over the door, and in a minute you'll see Neptune. From a land of soft red sandstone and wood to hard white limestone, wind and rain, Derbyshire, and the famous Haddon Hall. On this side it's a fortress. On that, a Stuart Manor House. Notice how unevenly the light is caught in leaded panes. In this paved courtyard you can see the steep slope. There are steps everywhere. Steps down to the chapel, the oldest part of which is 8 centuries old. As old as that Norman column on the right and the font below it. The Vernons were the people who built most of Haddon. They decorated these walls about 4 centuries ago in a style like the earliest printed books. In that stream stands St. Christopher, patron saint of travellers. The chapel is just as it was in Stuart times. Here's a story of Haddon. While her sister was being married at that altar, John Manners is said to have carried away Dorothy Vernon. She was a rich heiress. Up steps, always steps at Haddon, and here's the drawing room. It's worth looking at this plasterwork in detail. The Manners family put it there in the 17th century, probably with Vernon money. If you come along here and look out from the oriel window, you could see over there the hills and dales of Derbyshire and the winding River Wye. And that's the bridge over which Dorothy Vernon crossed. These steps, more steps, are made from a single oak. This is the long gallery, built by Dorothy and John. The walls are of oak and carved walnut. The prevailing colour is silvery grey. Galleries like this were made for ladies to take exercise in wet weather. South of the county, down Kedleston way, Heaton Hole, Derbyshire. We are off to admire the glory of the Curzon family. To make this park private, a main road was diverted by Act of Parliament. To leave this house on its own, a village was swept away. The house was rebuilt in 1761 by Sir Nathaniel Curzon, 1st Lord Scarsdale, architect James Paine. Did I say James Paine? When this front was finished, he was out of fashion, and Robert Adam was the coming man. So Robert Adam designed this marble hall for the Curzons of Kedleston. The floor is of contrasting stone and marble. The columns of red and cream Nottingham alabaster from the Curzons' own quarries. So skillfully are the pieces jointed together that the columns look like single blocks of stone. Dr. Johnson said it looked like a town hall. In the very midst of that marble chimney-piece, below the golden gods and goddesses, the arms of the 1st Lord Scarsdale, to remind us of the Curzons, who have lived here for 800 years. Look at this mahogany door. A keyhole would let in the draught, so cover it up with a face. The state drawing room. The door cases are of alabaster. The crystals of the chandelier have that hint of blue in them of old glass. This long sofa was designed for the room by Adam. All these houses are still lived in by the families for whom they were built. But the last one, Heaton Hole, which you're going to see, is now owned by the Corporation of Manchester. That's the portico of the old Manchester Town Hall, brought here 40 years ago. And that's the house, designed by James Wyatt in 1772 for the 1st Lord Wilton. I suppose the family found Manchester was getting too near, so they sold out 60 years ago. The corporation has made it into a Georgian museum. Engraved glass. Silver, from Stuart to late Georgian times. This is called a taper stick. It was made in 1780 and used for a table light. The chief rooms of the house, like this music room, are so well proportioned they hardly need furniture to enhance them. Let's look at this organ, a two-manual made by King George III's organ builder. The range of stops was well ahead of its time. Classical figures adorn the panels. Those pipes are made of pure tin to give sweetness of tone, and are gilded for display. This mahogany piano, with decorations in satinwood veneer, was made in London in Wardour Street by Stoddart in 1784. It gives out a delicate, spindly sort of sound, this early piano, a sound which suits the house. And now I'll leave you to enjoy it on your own.